In 1993, I was laid off from Microprose Software. I was unemployed for 5 months, which was exactly my severance pay. It was one of the worst times of my life. A friend got me a job interview with a company in Texas called id Software. Now, I was excited because I'd played Wolfenstein, and I thought it was groundbreaking. So, I arrived fresh from my 5 months of joblessness, and they showed me what they were working on. It was a game called Doom, and it had zombies you could shoot. This is literally the game idea I'd come up with back in 1988 that Microprose couldn't do. Well, I showed up, and it turned out later that what had happened is that the programming staff of id, John Carmack and John Romero, had decided that designers didn't help a game project and they didn't need them. And so they were trying to find an artist to do the level design for Doom. Now, the art team, Kevin Cloud and Adrian Carmack, said, no, we need a good designer. A designer is what we need, not another artist. And so they were arguing for it. And so the programmers kind of ran the company more than the artists. I mean, 2 of them were owners and only one of the artists. And they finally said, okay, tell you what, we'll bring in one designer in addition to all the artists we bring in. I didn't know they'd been doing all the artists. So I came in and they sat me down and said, here, I was their one designer. And the artists argued, if anyone's a designer, it's Sandy Petersen, because look all the stuff he's designed. I do remember in my interview with John Romero, he was flabbergasted because I was the only guy that knew as much about games that he'd met as he seemed to. He knew a lot about games and was obsessed with them, much more than like John Carmack or Adrian, any of those guys. He was the gamer guy, and so was I, so we hit it off. And so what I did, I sat down, I didn't know what to do, so I started creating a level for Doom. And eventually this became one of the levels that's actually in the game now, and I was making all these things, and there was moving platforms, and there was acid, and there was monsters that would attack you, and there was doors that raised and lowers and all this stuff. And they were amazed because the artists had come in, and the most anyone would have done is they'd make like a stairway, or they'd do like a little scene, but they weren't doing actual interactive game stuff. And so even the programmer said, hey, I guess a game designer is a good idea, and brought me in. So I flung myself into the task, and I built or rebuilt 20 of the 27 levels for Doom, including all the levels for episode 2 and 3. And the best part was, in November, just before it got released, I got to travel back to Baltimore and visit my friends at Microprose, the guys who'd stayed on when I was laid off. Look, I said, this is my job now. Look what I'm working on. They were astonished. I left them a copy to play with. Later, I heard that their next projects were delayed by 6 months because they spent all that time investigating and testing Doom. Maybe that helped Microprose go down the tubes, but that wasn't my plan. Anyway, there's a new Microprose, and it's much better off without the old-time deadweight. And like Sid Meier, for example, left to found Firaxis Games. Brian Reynolds left to find Big Huge Games. I left to found Petersen Games. So the near destruction of Microprose led to a bunch of other cool companies existing. I did a couple fun things in Doom besides design the levels. I named the levels. I figured hit points for the monsters and weapons. I'd done some game balancing before, so I did that. And at one point, they were all saying,
you know, the pump shotgun's lame in Doom. We shouldn't have the pump gun. It's not cool. We should only have machine guns.
Now, my argument was, in Wolfenstein, basically the guns go from the crappiest gun up to the best. But Doom, you had different guns for different jobs. And I thought the shotgun was a cool weapon because it pumped out a lot of damage at once. It was slow to cycle, but I said, look, when you fire the shotgun, it kills a guy all at once if he's not too big. Okay, you see the splatter of the blood. He goes flying backwards. Then you see the manly cinematic of you guy going chunk chunk and cocking the gun. I said, this is a hugely rewarding weapon for Doom, and it was saved. So there you go. I worked so much on Doom and later Doom 2 that I eventually had a bad nightmare I've told on another video, but I'll tell it again. Essentially, I was in this nightmare. I was in Doom, running through a level. Actually, it might have been Quake. I mean, this is 25 years ago, right? But I was either in Doom or Quake, and I was running through the level, and I came to this place where there was a big lava pool, and I had to run across a bridge across it, and went down and thinking, oh, that wasn't so bad, running across a bridge. Then I went through the level, there was these big monsters chasing me, and I ran back to that same area, because you go cycling around a lot in Doom. And I came to and Quake, came to that same lava pool, and the bridge was gone. And I had to jump it, and it was scary, because you fall in the lava. And I realized that the designer of the level who was, of course, Sandy Petersen, was redesigning the level while I was playing it to make it harder on me. But I was the guy playing it. So I was the bad guy in my dream about playing through Doom. So how can you beat him? Man, that was tough. Basically, whenever I work too long and hard on a game, I start having nightmares about the game. I've had them about Cthulhu Wars, about God's War, about hyperspace. But the Doom one's the one I'm going to save for here. So that was my stories, some of the stories from id Software.